Hi, Ilan, there you are.
Annette, hello everyone, and thank you for all of these presentations. A lot of inspiring things. It's difficult to read comments and questions coming in while we speak, etc.
Right.
I noted a few general themes, maybe, but a couple of things before. First, I have a comment about dictionarization.
Okay, go
And
ahead.
second, I thought maybe we would suggest to anyone who wanted to ask a question and didn't have a chance because the question time was shorter than we planned. So maybe would anyone like to begin with any specific question they had to any of the presentations? And if you do, please just go ahead.
And while people think about their question, there is one that you might answer, Ilan, in the chat at the moment. Is there a program for compiling a multilingual COVID online dictionary or glossary?
Yeah, I was wondering whether to mention that. There is an idea, let's say, and maybe it will come up in the discussion as well.
Right.
Well, if no one else is speaking, first of all, I would just like to draw attention that dictionarization is a neologism in English, anyhow. I suppose that it comes from, I think someone mentioned from Roman languages, Spanish in particular. We heard it earlier, first in the talk about Portuguese. But I don't think that it is used in English. And it is used in another context, which is in American English slang. Those of you who are interested can look it up at the Urban Dictionary. Very different meaning from what you have in mind. So I know that when we were preparing the papers for the new issue of the IJL and the word came up, there was some opposition to that. So you professional linguists, take care. Check it out and see about using that. Maybe some general themes first before that. It all comes in a way to a multilingual COVID dictionary. And I think Andreina mentioned the COVID diccionario, which is also a kind of neologism. Maybe I'll just run through a list of some points, and I'm sure that the participants who are still here could contribute with their ideas about that. One of the issues is the relation between lexicography and terminology, expanding on that, especially in the COVID-19 context. So I was curious, for example, on some of the talks. What kind of entries are there? Are these for laypersons? Are these for experts? Some experts I spoke with said, we don't need a dictionary for that. We know what it is. But I'm not sure that is true for everyone. And I think that some laypersons would be interested in that. And I think it's also the role of the lexicographer to do that regardless of what others think. So I'm curious to know what people here are thinking about that. Another point is, can I just go ahead and throw some ideas? I'm sorry, Annette, was that you?
No, somebody else.
It was me, but I
Who is me?
Me is Ruth Costa.
Hello.
Okay. Ruth, you're perfect to refer to the terminology in lexicography, right?
I would like to say something.
Go ahead.
I can go ahead. Okay, I thought that you would like
change of plan.
Okay, sorry. So I think, yes, I think experts don't need a dictionary. They know what they are talking about, and what they need is eventually more. They need eventually more ontologies it's more useful for them than lexicographical products, resources, let's say. But I think when it comes to laypersons and when it comes to people who need to understand what they are talking about, we need ourselves, when we write a definition, a lexicographic definition, we have to know what they talk about. And the problem is there is no consensus between them. Okay, so it's not that we don't know how to do, but if you go to the sources, what we find a lot of different information. And our problem is to write a good and a correct definition. So I think when the ideal situation for me is to have a very terminological definition, and from this terminological definition to try to have a popularized definition. It means a definition that all of us may understand, even if we are not expert in the domain, because as a non-expert, we don't know most of the time the features that are involved in the construction of the concept. So that's why I think it's very important to have multidisciplinary teams, because we need, on one hand, we need experts, but on the other hand, we need terminologists. So I think that terminologists are better than lexicographers to write, to organize information, but lexicographers are better in communicate with laypersons. So I do think that we have a lot to learn with each of us, and that eventually we could come up with different levels of definition. We could say this is the terminological definition, this is the lexicographic definition. So this would help a lot, I think. On the other hand, about dictionnarisation, I'm sorry, I will continue to use it, not in English, because I understand that there is eventually false friend eventually, but who works with dictionnaire and dictionarization is Bernard Quemada, and Bernard Quemada for Portuguese and Spanish and French speaking people are the reference in lexicographical matters. Even Vegan, who said the one is as good as myself, is Quemada. So it's I think well, I had it in my resume, and some people made a comment, so we change the wording. But when I talk in Portuguese or in French, I will continue to say dictionnarisation, because it's a very well established term in French lexicography.
I was not suggesting otherwise, Ruth. I just said that this export to English is something else.
Yes, that's why I accepted the critical or the suggestion that had been made to our because we feel that that the word in English or that the term in English is not accurate, or it's eventually a false friend. So we will not use it again in English, I promise you.
Vicky wants to say something. Vicky Boskiro.
Yes, thank you. We were also objected to the use of dictionarization and dictionaries, and now it was surprising to see that it was also used in Portuguese, but it's obvious because they are all Romance languages, and there's the same theoretical frameworks that circulate among us, which may not be, which English-speaking authors may not be familiar with. So in a way, I think there's two reasons why we should try to adopt dictionaries and dictionarization or defend it. Because first of all, it's a neologism. Come on, we're dealing with neologism. I mean, I was surprised when we were objected to their use, because I say, oh, we are discussing neologisms and we are being objected to using a neologism. And we were even told to use newness, which is also a neologism, right? And so I think the one of the interesting things about these workshops that we have had is that most of us are non-native English speakers, and still we need to use English as our lingua franca. And that will involve also adopting, perhaps we Spanish speakers, Portuguese speakers, French speakers took it for granted that it was transparent, because I think it is a pretty transparent neologism. But of course, we need to explain what we mean by it, which is not just inclusion, but also how the word is treated in the dictionary. As Ruth has explained, how you dictionarize terminologically is not the same as how you dictionarize for a different user. And I think, well, I want to defend it, and like Ruth has done, but also, of course, understand what it means to use it. Yes. Okay, that was it.
Makes full sense. We absolutely agree. But very simply, we are calling your attention to the word exists in English with a very different sense. So go and check it up, and if you like, we speak later. But when we were going to use it in the publication of a special issue of dictionaries of DSNA, the editor drew our attention to that. It was in one of the papers. I know that especially in Barcelona, they were using it a lot. Anyhow, maybe we can move on. You are absolutely right. This is a neologism and everything. It's simply, it exists already with other things. So it could be another, a semantic neologism then. Right. But you are right. It's transparent and it would make sense.
May I answer to Ruth about something that she said when she discussed the lexicographic team that ideally would also comprise terminologists. That would be a dream, of course, but you might ask all the people working on corona-related dictionaries that are here right now, how many people there are on their team, and maybe possibly the answer will be one or two. And those are, of course, not terminologists. And the idea to have different definitions is a very good one, in fact, but in my opinion, absolutely not realistic, because we're very happy with our very small team to come up with definitions at all, you know, and those are probably addressed to lay people. So we try to sort of paraphrase the terminology that actually comes into the German Corona dictionary. Yeah. But well, yes, you are right. That would be wonderful. Yeah. But
yes, in our team we have a mixed team. Persons who are very experienced in lexicography, and others who are very experienced in terminology. And and I work hard to try to explain that we have very different methods, even if you have the same object of observation and of studies. Right. So I think it's very interesting. And if I look a little bit around with people who work with coronavirus, in fact, most of the people are terminologists. Mm-hmm. So so we could get this team together. I mean, we could have the team not in our small team, but in our European team or in our world team. Those people who are working in terminology with COVID, and we will find lexicographers, we will find terminologists, we will find people who are journalists, so people who work in social media. You can find a lot of wrong definition, or not wrong definition that don't follow the rules of writing a definition, but even so they present some meanings. And you have the experts. So you have, and if you compare these definitions, well, at the end, what we don't know what we have if we want to have an accurate definition. Okay, so it would be very interesting if you could work on this and have maintain the sources, not saying that it's wrong, but saying that, well, we have very different points of view and we will have eventually different results. And for a translator, for instance, or for someone who is what we say in French, un langagier, so people who have the language as a profession, so they could have all the information in one single place. So, and that would be very interesting.
And sure,
no, but interesting.
Right. But realistically, for example, for German, we're still working on collecting and describing all those hundreds of words, you know, and then later on, possibly, yes, Vicky says a dream. That's true. Okay, let's move on away from the dream. I think Ilan wants to go
We
down.
have to have dreams. If not, life is not interesting.
Absolutely.
And that's the idea. I think it would be interesting to hear from our colleagues from OECD who are here, if they are still here, on how it works there, because as far as I know, there's just a single definition which tries to make the best of all worlds. But I'll move on to another point, and others are welcome to comment on this if they like. Another issue, I think, is the cross-referencing of among different, let's say, corona-related entries. Okay, and a related issue is, I think this takes us also back to terminology, perhaps, is that, and it has surfaced here and there today also in the talks, that there could be different words or expressions for the same term. Let's say social distance and social distancing and physical distance. So how much cross-referencing is there among these different entries? And is there now a sort of domain about COVID-related entries? So this is another point which has not been raised so much during the different presentations. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I feel in general, we witnessed more weight on the research aspect than about talking about how do you actually put it in a dictionary? Just the same as anything else? Anything different? So what's the difference? Why is it such a big deal? Okay.
Right, but I think some of the papers presented dealt with that question, because all these words, we don't even know whether they will survive, you know, how short-lived are they really? And if they are there only for a short time, do we even need to describe them lexicographically? Like we put that question to us all the time, because we have all those entries and we know already that this word will not survive. But then on the other hand, isn't that even the reason to have it in the list and explain it, to record it, you know, for later times when we won't use it anymore? But the discussion in our team is always around this question. And then
it's
also,
again
what kind of information? That's what you said. How do we even describe this? We describe them as neologisms and not as part of the general language dictionary, but others found other solutions.
Yeah. Well, I think what you said is quite right. Are there any other comments, or is this just a dialogue between Annette and me? Andreina, did you want to add something?
Yes, this is the question we have already discussed also, because it impacts in what are different kinds of dictionaries. So I think this pandemic lexis make us to reflect about very deeply of what are the needs of the functions of the dictionary and the users, because it's quite different as we have seen. And for example, I think that Magdalena's and Mario's presentation are very complementary to ours, and I think that the new objective of this Diccionario Histórico is to be a bank of data, so as to then try to decide what will go to the DLE, to Diccionario, that is as a general language, it's a normative language, dictionary, but I think that now it's this way of thinking about the Diccionario Histórico is like a meta-historical, I think. No, that's to think the history in the future. No, so it's difficult to decide. But well, we were very impacted because of this, that some words that were published in this dictionary or in COVID Diccionario, some others, were captured by the press, and then that word began to circulate. And for example, yeah, excuse me.
Same here, same for German. Yeah.
Ah, okay. So in Argentina, for example, covidiota didn't exist. We didn't use covidiota, covidiot. But since the Diccionario Histórico included it, it was a notice for all the press said covidiota was accepted by the Real Academia Española, and it began to be used. Also, the press asked us, hey, all these neologisms, no? So it's a very new situation, I think, that, as Ilan says, we will have to reflect and think about it. Thank you.
Yes, the whole new role of dictionaries and lexicographers really, and the interest that the public takes into our work, I think has risen dramatically, and also the number of laypersons working on glossaries and etc. And you can also, when you think back to Frank's presentation on how many people worked on Wikipedia entries, you can see the rise in the general public in interest in these terms and words. And I think it's good because it's promoted lexicographic work, really. I hope that more people in the future will go and look up things in dictionaries again and not just Google, maybe. We see.
I think it's again the tension between the ideal and the reality. You know, it also the same about the lexicography and terminology. Big dictionaries used to have big teams who certainly had experts of the different terms, and you usually don't have that today. Very few grand dictionaries can afford having that. So the lexicographer is expected more than ever. You know, the lexicographer needs to be a genius, manipulating all of these research things to find out things and putting them in order and all that. So I think it's part of that. Any other insight on this topic?
Amazingly enough, Mickey Vale is still with us. I mean, don't you need to go to bed? But we're very happy that you're still here. And I think she just wrote into the chat that they do have the same problem concerning sign language. Yes. Interesting comment.
Yeah, sorry, it's not that late yet. It's 12:30, so still doable.
Okay, great.
Great. Okay.
Thank you for still being here with us.
A different issue which I was wondering about, it was in particular regarding the paper about Korean neologisms, is that you were talking about domains that you had and you were looking up. And if I'm not mistaken, in the beginning you said there were 14 domains and then there were 12. Mm-hmm. So I was wondering, how do you decide, as part of this pre-research work, how is it decided which domains will be there? Is it just the subjective ideas of the lexicographer or the linguist researcher? And secondly, do these corpora, which are COVID-oriented corpora, are they changing and modifying with time? I mean, Annette and I thought that by the time we have this workshop, maybe the whole thing about COVID will become an occasionalism. On the other hand, unfortunately, it is more present than ever at the moment. So perhaps specifically about the Korean work, could you share with us about how did you decide about those domains and what are your insights about this issue?
Yeah, yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Kirim Nam. I would like to explain We have used some semantic classification categories for more than 20 years. The main purpose using the category is to classify and explain how neologism behave through the times. So as you know, the most big semantic categories are related to society or economics nowadays. I think it is very originally related to essence of the neologisms, but we added and we deleted some categories to describe, to classify properly COVID-19 neologism. And then we found that corona neologisms are totally different from other neologism groups. We found more than 30% of corona neologisms are distributed in the category of government policies. So that's why we have done until now. So what is the second question of your Lan?
Actually, you have answered that also. It's about the dynamism, I think, of the corpora themselves, you know, that then it means you need to go and add other kinds of corpora to the work that you are doing, and you keep discovering new things there.
Especially in my research of this article, we added some user comment corpus, and we compared to newspaper corpus, and we are crawling now every month. I don't know if my answer is enough for you.
Yeah, it's very good. Thank you. I am unable to read the comments that are coming through. So if anyone would like to just say something, just burst in.
But
Thank
Ilan,
you
how much time do we have? Ilan, how much time?
Well, as long as basically we're finished. We basically, I think we finished 2 minutes ago. Okay. But we're still here. I think we still have quite a few people. So whoever wants to stay can. And we continue this, right? So should I just continue with maybe one more issue? And this has to do about the multilinguality. Actually, I mentioned that to Judith after her talk about Hungarian, Italian, English. So this is perhaps on a small scale, but Judith, if you are still here, I was curious about how did you go about the connection between the different languages? Oh, hello. And especially things of the Hungarian language. So did you have an equivalent in the other languages, or you must have had some local terms that you needed simply to provide some kind of translation equivalent, but it doesn't exist in the other language?
Hi, everyone. Well, yes, maybe my case is particular because I native Hungarian, so I managed to work on Hungarian language and find the pandemic related words. But I also live in Italy from 24 years. So maybe this helps me to find the equivalents also in Italian language. So I try to cover the equivalent like that. Obviously, in Hungarian, we have terms that have no equivalents in Italian or in English, which are just used and created in Hungarian. Mostly they are used in slang or in social networks and blogs. So in that case, obviously, I'm not able to provide an Italian equivalent. Maybe I can provide a kind of definition or explanation of of those words. But most probably this is through also from Italian or from English into Hungarian. Even if I've noticed that many English neologisms are both into Hungarian. Sometimes they are loan words, sometimes they are also adaptations to try to follow the Hungarian spelling. And also there is the problem that you mentioned before, cross-references. Mostly at the beginning of the pandemics in Hungarian, we have many similar terms that mean the same thing. And most probably there will be a winner, a term that became more accepted by common people. And well, I'm at the beginning of this research, so I guess that maybe later on I will use also comparable corpora for this this part of the job.
Thank you, Judith. And maybe that
Thank
could
you.
also help us as some introduction to talking about what Annette asked me before about a Corona multilingual dictionary. But before that, Annette, you wanted to take a photo of everyone? So maybe
there was a question in the chat, and I just wrote into the chat. Yeah, before we all leave, everybody would need to switch on their cameras, and then we could take some screenshots. And then we should also do that. Don't do that screen lighting. How's it called? That you and I are so big on the screen now.
Yeah. Well, the technical director can help us.
We'll take care of that.
So
and
we take a photo and then a multilingual photo, and then we can talk about multilingual Corona.
Okay, so now, okay, we need, oh, so many people stay there. Wonderful. If you go to the gallery, yay. So I asked our student helpers to take some screenshots now, and you all smile for a minute, and I hope it looks nice then. And Frau Hinderer, Herr Bolkart, can you let me know when you're done so that we can continue our discussion? Done? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so maybe about some of you actually have already contacted about this idea, which first I spoke with Annette about Corona multilingual dictionary. I was wondering how come no one has thought about it or done it already. And it seemed really simple. And every day that passed, it just turned into a monster. So the idea was, I mean, this is the most global phenomenon that's going on, right? It's been around for at least a year and a half. And we have dedicated this workshop. There are so many other things going on, of course. So it would be good to have, I mean, it's the most natural thing to do a Corona multilingual dictionary. So I thought we could do it with GWLX. And then I realized that it's very naive, and actually it's really complicated. So let me share with you some of what started making it problematic. And I'm still thinking about that, but it has to be done in a different context. And basically it would need a lot of money. So the original idea was that already there are all kinds of dictionaries going on, for example, in Annette's Institute. We know about the work in Barcelona, in Korea, and some other places. So we just take it and put it together in a way, and everyone should be happy to contribute their data, and GWLX will just put it together. Easier said than done. First of all, I think what happens in a way, Judith has just referred to that, is that there is an international vocabulary of Corona. We all talk about like social distancing and quarantine and mask and stuff like that. And probably the interlingua for that is English. A lot of that is coming from English in the first place. But there is a lot of local language that is related to that. So that would mean that such a dictionary would have a certain part which is common to all languages. And that would be the easy part in a way. And the second part would be vocabulary that is common to any specific language. And then probably it would need to have an English equivalent. Whenever there are equivalents in more languages, it would be possible to add those. And then it would be possible to have indexes in all of the languages. Again, English would be the most the richest index on that. I think you're getting the picture of that. Another complication is what kind of language will we have? Here, the thing of the popular versus expert came up. The idea that we would need lexicographers and terminologists and experts from this field, at least one anyhow. So it's beginning to be a team. It's beginning to be, my idea was to simply have an online dictionary that is free. So in order to do that, you need a certain maintenance. We would need to have a very strong and solid software. There are some things like that going on, part of it, I understand, with Sketch Engine. Oxford is doing that on a small scale. We heard a little bit about that, but to do it on an international level, it needs to be huge, and it needs to be done professionally. So it means we need ads. So we need to have marketing in order to be high on Google, in order to sell ads and have a whole financial mechanism going around. Or alternatively, the easy solution would be to get a sponsor, such as one of the pharmaceutical companies that is doing billions of dollars on that, to contribute $1 million and have a team of dedicated professional people work on that. Would people be interested in that? We don't know. We know that we are. So could that be something internationally popular? I thought at first that it would be, but I'm an optimist to begin with. I tend to focus on the half glass that is full, and then see the empty half. So maybe it would require a lot of work. So the idea has been around for a couple of months. I have been in contact with a few people, and the more contacts I have, the more discouraged I become about that, because I have a job, all of you are working and all that. It's a full-time job to deal with this. So if, however, people here are interested in that, it still has a chance. So that's the idea of
somebody in the chat said it should be called Covipedia. I like that.
Yeah, well, there are more aspects. It's the encyclopedic aspects are part of that. And,
right.
And things I began thinking about were connecting it with linked data, because there is so much information around. So it's not going to be a good old dictionary in the traditional sense. It would need to be very innovative and up to date and have very smart technologies there. So we would need a strong technical infrastructure.
May I say something, Ilan?
Sure, please.
Yes. So, well, when the pandemic began, so we have a dictionary made with Lexonomy. And so we began to work with Portuguese, and then we involved some teams. So we have Tanya Vizik. So she is involved, and so she entered with 8 languages, I think. So we have also Portuguese from Portugal, we have Portuguese from Brazil, we have Portuguese from Angola, and we have Italian also. So we try to have a meeting with the group of Natalia. So she's writing. She has her own database. We have with Anna Anik. She has her own database. And so the idea, and I told them that we would have a meeting to come up with an European project. The problem is that, well, I did not have time. And as you say, it's a very big problem. Only to work with Portuguese of Portugal and Portuguese of Brazil, that we are working with Yeda Alves on that dictionary. So it's very complicated because we have a lot of false friends. We had a lot of several situations. So it would be great if we could have this project all together. And I think that eventually everybody who has a dictionary could contribute as the starting point of this big project. So in our team, we would agree to come with to have our dictionary in order to come up with something different and something better than the one we have. So the one we have is for popularization aims. We pretend to popularize terminology and to use the one that is present in social media, and well, one that we have in both of our corpora. So and I'm still working on it. So I think it's a good idea, Ilan, if there is something that comes up. So it would be nice.
And Reina wanted to say something concerning this question as well. And some people are leaving. Okay. Yep.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Well, I will say something more or less like Rute, but I think that this kind of project would be okay if you start with a small, like a prototype with, for example, the words that are in the press, not all terminological, but to make a, I don't know, a small vocabulary first. For example, in the Antenas Neológicas, we have been recording the variants, the social variants, and in different countries. For example, the new normality is la nueva normalidad, la nueva convivencia, that are used in different countries. And we have small data to share, you know, but I think that it is important, for example, that many of the words that, as you have said, they are calques, because of Corona is Latin and so on. So many languages have many neologisms with Corona that are transparent. But maybe if you narrow the objective of this dictionary, when with different participation of groups that are still making research, maybe it could be possible. I don't know.
Maybe, Ilan, what you need to do is invite people on a single Zoom session only to discuss this idea.
Yeah, but just of course, yeah, but just to do that, there are lots of preparations in the brainstorming. And Rute has mentioned Yeda. I think she's here, and I've already checked with her. Everyone says it's a great idea, but
everyone says great, but
it's a lot of work. I think that also with reference to what has just been mentioned, I think it's not enough for everyone who's already been doing things to just give it. I mean, what is necessary is to, first of all, make a working plan and to have a technical infrastructure that will be able to accommodate all of the different languages, much beyond European aspect. Ruta mentioned that. No, European is not enough. Europe can have it anyway, but it's not enough. This has to be international, global. And I think that with Europe and with other stronger nations, it would be possible to get it going. And then when people in less developed countries or languages will hear about that, then they can join. So it's something that would be there for some time. So we would need a very solid technical infrastructure in order to accommodate different languages, to have a single model for the things. It should be the same. It should have in a way, have a single model, at the same time enable each language to speak in its own language, to give room for peculiarities of different languages. So it's becoming more and more ambitious. It requires a lot of careful thinking. Maybe it's a question of time. It would require considerable funding. I spoke with a local expert from the medical world. And when I mentioned the World Health Organization, he said they would never help with that or something. So maybe he's just skeptical, and maybe they would, or some hospital or university or pharmaceutical company or whatever. But there are the devil is in the details. So I think that once such an infrastructure and a framework is there, then it would be possible for all of you who have already been doing your work on your own to then upload it to there, or to do a certain modification in order to upload it. But first of all, we need to have something that is fully international in order to get started. As someone wrote, Bill Gates, lots of possibilities, but it's necessary to make a business plan. I just prepared a one-page executive summary, and it took me a long time to do it. And once I did, I knew it's not enough. It requires a lot of time.
I think this is what our workshop showed today, that the topic is worth putting more work into it, absolutely, lexicographically and otherwise. And I think for me personally, that's pretty much the only positive outcome of the pandemic, is how much focus was transferred on lexicographic work, and that many people out there, not only journalists, but also users, laypersons, seem to realize, it's really good to have people recording language and explaining new words. And I think that's a positive outcome for our kind of work, for us as professionals in this field, at least. Also gave us a lot to do in a very short time, of course, but and will still give some work to us, as we just heard from Ilan, right?
There is more work to come. We plan to publish the papers. Most of the presenters here have already expressed interest in that. Actually, we have most of the manuscripts already. So there is a publication plan. We have a green light from an important lexicographic publication. We need to, it will take several months to know. And as I mentioned in the beginning, part of the idea of this Global X workshop is to move from working among the different lexicographic associations. So we have the others online, AsiaLex, AfriLex, a new one which is being developed in Latin America, which is called AmericaLex, South Central, Caribbean, and Mexico. So we'll see. Maybe there will be things there too.
Yeah, we'll see.
Never a dull moment. A lot to do.
No.
We've been talking a lot. Annette, you've been sharing really nicely.
You as well,
I was jealous. Very good. Thanks a lot. And there are any more comments? This should have been an open discussion with everyone.
Well, we could say that we hope very much to see you, if possible, at the EuroLex conference next week. There is on Thursday night or Wednesday, I forgot right now, there is this specific neology related part. Unfortunately, you would have to register for the whole conference, but hopefully we will see some of you there, or I will. Ilan cannot join us. And then we do hope for next year for EuroLex in Mannheim. I'd very much like to welcome very many of you in person. Come and join us. Call for papers will go out soon and you'll be able to submit. And actually, we are very easy to reach. It's just half an hour train ride from Frankfurt International Airport. So yeah, money gives you a problem, I know, but it's easy to reach anyway. That's what I wanted to say. And we'd love to have you here. Yeah.
So maybe just to finish, I think that's another positive aspect of this terrible COVID crisis is that these online meetings, we mentioned we had over 120 registrations. I noticed that there were the maximum persons present together were 95 at a certain moment, but maybe there were people who were not all the time, etc. So it will be interesting to look at the statistics later. We were amazed by the high number of registrations, but part of it, I'm sure, it's because we are not meeting face to face. So that has it makes it possible for many more people to participate. Nevertheless, we very much hope to meet face to face in person. So thank you very much for joining us. And thank you for the colleagues at IDS for the technical support and all the arrangements. Thank you, Annette.
Thank you, Ilan. And thank you, everybody. Have a good night, good day, whatever comes next for you all. It's afternoon here now. So we hope to see you soon, right? And goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.